Last night I finished reading this book called Culture Care by Makoto Fujimura. So I first heard him in a podcast I was listening to. He was a guest, and I realized right after I listened to the podcast that I needed to buy this book because the concepts are so good and so relevant. I highly recommend this book to all artists, creatives, musicians, poets, actors, lovers of the arts, supporters of the arts, business people, pretty much anyone who has a passion for the arts. So in the podcast I was listening to, he described his experience. He moved to New York City. He started in the mid-90s when he first started exhibiting his artwork. He noticed this whole idea of culture wars, where it's these two sides and it's all about demonizing the other side. Everyone feels like they're fighting this culture war. And I loved hearing him describe it, how, think of it like a garden, and basically we're all sharing the same soil, and what you're doing when you demonize the other side and you put the other person down and you see them as the enemy, what you're actually doing is poisoning the land that we all are on. So there's really no us versus them at the end of the day, because we're all a shared humanity. We're sharing this space. We're all, you know, if your neighbor, you truly disagree with them, like, you're still sharing the same soil. And then by demonizing the other side, you're pretty much just poisoning the land that you all share. So no one actually wins the culture war. I love how he writes, "Culture is not a territory to be won or lost, but a resource we are called to steward with care. Culture is a garden to be cultivated." We all have a responsibility to care for culture, to nurture it in ways that help people thrive. In Culture Care, artist Makoto Fujimura issues a call to cultural stewardship, in which we become generative and feed our culture soil with beauty, creativity, and generosity. We serve others as cultural custodians of the future. So what a lot of parents are doing now is they think they have to fight these culture wars for their children and for the future, and they have to win this war for the betterment of the future. But what the kids are actually seeing is a poisoned land with, you know, what happened to the beautiful flowers that used to grow? They can't anymore because it's all toxic. And the beautiful tomatoes that used to grow up, and all the fruit and the thriving and the flourishing, it's just all going to be dead because everyone's fighting these wars and poisoning the land we all share. And we realize the things we're trying to grow, we can't be fruitful anymore. So basically what Culture Care is it's the gift to the next generation, and it's the producing a thriving environment for us all to live on. I love this. A well-nurtured culture becomes an environment in which people and creativity thrive. And that's honestly a vision that's so worth embracing and working towards, regardless of what you believe, regardless of what side you're on. I think that's a good shared goal that we should all have. And also, just disclaimer, this book is written from a Christian perspective, but although he is Christian, he talks about this, that the thesis is not limited to Christians. The principles of culture care can be embraced universally. They depend only on developing skills and listening to the wider culture, and thereby becoming a loving servant toward culture, rather than treating it as a territory to be won. I think that's what so many people do, is they see culture as this territory to be won, and it's this battlefield, and everyone's fighting, hoping that they can win this battle. But as he says, no one actually wins at the end of the day. If you win, you lose. He writes, "We need mediation in culture to help bridge the divide, not so much to broker an agreement about what we believe as to communicate beyond our differences." And I think that's such an important thing to remember, is that it's not about making us all agree, and we're never going to all agree with each other or have the same beliefs, but it's just about being able to live with other people despite your differences and being able to communicate. And he says, "Culture care emphasizes the common good. Constructive cultural work begins not in opposition but in sharing, of ideals generously argued, of visions for future generations, of opportunities to meet and dialogue with the other, all of which could occur in the context of the arts, and from there be mirrored into society." So this is all really about what a crucial role the arts have to play in this, in healing. He says, "Artists can be known instead as citizen artists who lead in society with their imagination and their work. Artists can take the lead in showing generosity in such dialogues, offering opportunities and creating microcosms of true diversity." So yeah, I highly recommend this book. It is so good. It's just, if you're an artist especially, I think that's a really great way to think about it, is just, it's a garden to be cultivated. It's not a battle to be won. Something to keep in mind, because I find what so many people do is they just always blame the other side and how bad the other side is and how they're ruining society. And in all these culture wars and these battles, it's actually the fighting is poisoning all of our land. Also, I really love, there's a story he told in the book towards the beginning of how he married his wife in 1983, and they were just starting out their careers. They weren't making a lot of money. They just had no food to eat pretty much and had to budget very carefully. And one day, Judy, his wife, got home with flowers, and he was like, "Are you kidding? We can't even pay our bills. We can't eat. Why'd you buy flowers?" As like, it's such an unnecessary purchase. And she was like, "We have to feed our souls too." And he writes about that. Those words just stuck with him, of feeding our souls and the importance of beauty and art.